snore.
Okay. Will not today at least.
Not for this meeting. Oh God, if there's another one, that might be a possibility.
Long day, I'm sure. Yeah, busy days.
Mm-hmm.
Do you all see the right screen?
We do. Hey, Hermione, I hope I don't mess up your name. Is it Hermione? How are you?
Yes. Hi, Kim. I'm good. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a
Good.
full, busy week. It's been like 17 Mondays in this week. Feels like it.
It has.
But it's good stuff. It's part of the work. It is the work we do.
Mm-hmm. I worked at Southlight the same time you did. You probably don't remember me. I worked in residential with Denise.
Oh, okay. Yes. My time in the different departments was seasonal. Whenever there was usually a crisis, I'd jump from one
Mm-hmm.
place to the next.
Yeah.
But Denise,
Mm-hmm.
she is a force.
She a firecracker.
Yeah. She takes good care of that program though.
Mm-hmm. She does. Definitely.
You guys. Okay, do you guys see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
We
Okay.
do.
Excuse me.
Let's see how many folks we got here. So I guess we'll.
Are you ready or am I on the wrong slide?
No. Just to slow out the gate, a little slow. If you guys are ready to get underway, we'll get started.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed the first part.
No, that's okay. Looks like we have 10 folks on, so we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome to everyone to our Supportive Services Subcommittee meeting. I am Kim Stone, the chair for the subcommittee. Just kind of winging it. I will get more adept at the facilitation piece, but I'm really glad to be here. Real grateful to be a part of this committee. Is Karen? Is she here? So I have I'm looking at the general meeting reminders. There you go. So everyone, these are just the general meeting reminders that the meeting is being recorded. If you will, type your name and contact information in the chat box. If you want to join the conversation, you can just use the raise your hand feature. And if you're on a phone, just *6 mute and unmute to mute and unmute, and *9 to raise and lower your hand. All righty. Again, welcome. I'm Kim Stone, your chair, and our new staff liaison is Hermione Ruffin. We'll have executive committee strategic plan retreat, some information from either Michael Ballin or Natalie will report on that. talking about who is at LRC and how we want to show up in the community. Then I'll walk through the revised subcommittee priorities. We will have a partner presentation from Sharif Brown and do announcements and next steps. And then we'll turn everybody loose to head towards Friday. But I just wanted to acknowledge Hermione Ruffin. She's our Wake Local Reentry Council Behavioral Health Case Manager and Supportive Services Staff Liaison. I'll get it all out. Anything you'd like to say, Hermione?
Hello, everyone. Not really. I just wanted to say I'm looking forward to assisting and working with you all through this process.
Thank you. All right, let's see. Is Mr. Ballin with us today? I'm not sure if he was able to make it.
He had a meeting right before this, so he may not have made it yet, Kim.
Yeah, I spoke with him a little earlier, and he was in a staff meeting at that point too. So feel free, Natalie, to go ahead with the strategic plan retreat updates.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. I am glad to be here with you all. I'm glad you made it. This is exciting news that I'm going to share with you. As you know, your executive committee is charged with creating the strategic plan that guides the work of the council. Last week, they participated in a strategic planning retreat, which was the first working session for developing that strategic plan that they will present to the full council. In preparation for the retreat, you all participated in the surveys, which was very important for the groundwork. The survey feedback really laid the foundation from which we did a lot of the strategic planning activities. So for those of you who were able to participate in the survey, we wanted to thank you for that feedback because it was very instrumental, and you may see lots of your feedback as a result in the work that comes out of this committee. There were two, lots of great work, lots of energy in the room, but there are two major areas that we want to share with you today. And one was the question our facilitator posed to us, which was, who is the LRC? And so that seems like a very simple question, but at times, sometimes we hear about the intermediary agency, or we hear about capital area, and the lines sometimes get blurred. But the reality is the most important part is the LRC, not the intermediary. And the LRC is everybody on this call, all of the partners, all of the agencies, all of the community referral agencies that exist, all of the individuals who show up at the table and stakeholders that move this work forward are the LRC, not capital area and not the staff. We are the support to the full council, and the full council are the Kim Stones, are the Mr. Wards, are the Michael Ballins, and all of you who are on this call. I think you will see some branding that comes out of this committee work around who we are. We may even come up with buttons that say, I am the LRC, I am Wake LRC, and have some way of putting your agency or the work you represent across the top of the button. Because everybody who comes to these meetings, who advances the work, is the LRC. And so that was one of the key pieces. The other key piece that came out is that we came up with some value words, or answering the question how we want to show up in the community. What do we want to be known for as the LRC? The LRC is the network. We got that piece. So when people talk about the LRC in the community, who do you want that? What do you want that to mean? And so the value words that were developed were resourceful. We want to show up responsive, innovative, and impactful. And over the last 2 days, the LRC staff have been participating in a staff retreat with the entire Capital Area Workforce Development team. And a part of that, each smaller team had to start working on overarching goals. And so the team came up with an acronym for the value words that were identified. And so with those 4 words, the team came up with river, the acronym of a river. And they drew a picture, which hopefully we can get laminated. And right now it's hanging on the wall in my office, but I think Hermione was the one who suggested we post it on the wall when you come in LRC. When you come into Tillery, there's a solid wall by the LRC cubes, and that's a good place to post it, or at least some form of it, because that river showed an individual that we're working with whose life has been impacted by the criminal justice system, and how we show up responsive to her needs, how we show up in her state of emergency, how we are able to connect her with resources, and not just the basic resources, but that we can think outside the box and be innovative in the resources that we provide the men and women we serve. And how by the end of this river, you know, the client who was predicted, well, who was, I can't think of the word, it's the end of the week and I'm feeling this long weekend, depicted, that's my word, on the river. At the end of the river, she was standing on solid ground, facing the river with a fishing pole. And on the end of her line was a fish called self-sufficiency. And so the team had a blast drawing this, but this really was what we hope would be the journey of the men and women we serve, that they may start at a place of trauma and emergency and urgency and barriers, but that through working with the team and all of you all and the resources that they're connected with, they can end up on solid ground, feeding themselves and their families and their communities through self-sufficiency that they can achieve through the work that you all provide. So when I tell you that room was full of energy and excitement and discussion, it was really a great time to be had. And that was only our first working session. All of the material that came out of that discussion, combined with the feedback from you all surveys that was done pre-working session, will be consolidated into a report that the executive committee will receive and then work on some before we have the next working session. Ultimately, what will come from the working sessions is this blueprint of work that will guide the work of this committee and of the housing subcommittee and also the employment subcommittee. But the work that the executive committee did during that strategic planning retreat was awesome. So next steps is just to get that report pulled together. We had a facilitator who was as a senior consultant from Armstrong and McGuire, facilitated this process, and she will get that information to us and it will be compiled into a report that we can work from. So that really sums up the work that came out of our very first working session. Keep your eyes open because you may receive another survey with information. If you receive a survey from Armstrong and McGuire about the LRC and what your desires are for the LRC and what your dreams are for what we can accomplish, please participate. Your feedback drives this work, and you'll see it when you get the end results back. The strategic plan should have your voice. It should represent your ideas, but you got to give them to us. I thought I saw Michael Ballin pop in, and I think we should give him an opportunity to speak to the work of the executive committee as well.
Hi, guys. I'm sorry. My computer did something real funny. Thank you, Natalie, for that. One thing I can say is that, it was a real good day that day. I really enjoyed all the work that we did, and it was very eye-opening to see as we were able to collect our ideas and our thoughts and put them down on the board and then talk them out. We saw a great vision, we saw a great direction, and we saw some real good things that were happening. So I'm just excited and elated to see how we then take our vision, take the things that we were able to put on paper to make those things applicable to the work that we're trying to do and to get the people the help that they need. Is there anything else I'm missing?
No, Michael, I think that was it. I just didn't want to, I shared the notes directly from the working session, and I didn't want to not give you an opportunity to share, because I could see how engaged you were during that process. And I think it's important as the executive committee liaison for this subcommittee for them to see that energy from you as well. So I think you covered it.
And if I add, thank you, because I am looking at the PowerPoint again as well. The group was very, very intentional about looking at our priorities and making sure that through our priorities, we were capturing those needs of the people that we wanted to support and making sure that we didn't leave anything out, even some that we thought that could, I would say, become, they could not necessarily compete, but they could run together. We were able to put things together because we saw how they really fit, because we understand with some of the experiences from some of the people that I was with who have had this experience, they understand that a lot of the stuff that we had written down, we just didn't want to lose. We know how important it was to get this work together, but also prioritize it so people knew that we were really thinking about their needs when people were trying to get the help and the support that they needed.
Thank you, Natalie, and thank you, Mr. Ballin. Very exciting. I really love that, the visual of the woman standing on solid ground and fishing. I really love that. And I'm so grateful to be a part of this network, this movement. It feels like it's really gaining some traction and some great momentum. So and in the spirit of not leaving anything out, we're going to move on to I'm going to talk about the priority areas. And we've got the slide up of the 7 that I haven't been present for this whole process, as you guys have discussed in the last couple of years, the 7 priorities. And recently I was in a conversation with Leonarda and Mr. Ballin and Karen McDaniels, talking about how to consolidate and again, in the spirit of not leaving anything out. we didn't want to let go of anything. So we just kept talking about it, and what eventually happened with your feedback, we consolidated everything into just about everything on this list into 3 priorities. So we've shifted away from the 7 into 3. So the first one I want to talk about is the first updated priority area. I'm gonna wait for her. There you go. Is to maintain or help support efforts to maintain a list of service providers, i.e. update Wake network of cares that offer affordable access to medical, behavioral health, medication management, family reunification, and mentoring peer support services, and share this list with the council. We'll go through it and come back for questions. Let's see. The next one is to ensure that returning citizens are employable and can experience a life that will give them the freedom to move fluidly throughout the community. To do this, we will identify, support, and make referrals to service providers that develop and expand literacy, computer literacy, financial education, budgeting, money management, credit history, and banking skills. The priorities we are recommending will ensure that individuals are employable and promote the opportunity for successful transition back into society. And the third one is to identify resources and their access points that make an individual whole, like driver's license restorations, certificate of relief, expungements, voting and parental rights, support efforts that promote legal restoration of an individual. We can, my plan is to kind of reach out to all of the members and maybe figure out the best way to go after how we work on each one of these priority areas. Because to the point about what is the LRC? Who is the LRC? We are. This is our work to do, not any one person. And I'm so excited to be a part. I can't say that enough. Sounds like I've said it 7 times already. But to get this information together, being one of the providers and working in the field, see all these things show up just about on a daily basis, and having a current updated resource pool to pull from. These are all relevant priority areas. So I'll be in touch about how maybe we break it up to get the resources listed, get all the information together and submit it back to the LRC or to our council meeting. So more to come in that regard. Are there any questions or feedback from those on the call? Okay.
I'm still kind of processing. This is Derek Bird. I'm still kind of processing all of this. I guess what would be helpful for me,
Okay.
as this is the supportive services work group, is how do we go about operationalizing some of these priority areas? And we've been identifying and talking about priority areas for forever. So I'm now ready for the work to get started. So what does it need to take at this point for us to begin to start looking at some of these areas?
No, it's a great question. It's a great question. So I have a list of the members. So that's my idea, at least, is to start an email and see who's going to take one, who might want to work with priority 1, priority 2, or priority 3, or maybe you'd like to work on all 3 of them, to begin to build out a list or build out some type of documentation where we list out the items that are part of the priority, to have documentation or to have a game plan for how to accomplish each one. So that is coming. It's operationalize is a great word. How do we now build it? We have the targets. So how do we build it? So that will be the work that follows between now and the next meeting.
And I think the other thing, Kim, if I can add,
Sure.
is not only are we looking, to create other, a list of some sort, but also seeing if there may be someone who want to champion this priority and work with us, because we understand that there may be a group or there may be an organization or nonprofit that says that, you know what, this falls in line with some of the things that I'm doing, and they may want to champion this with us and create this partnership to help drive this priority. So that's the other means of this looking at it. Hopefully that helps you, Mr. Byrd, when you're thinking about this and how we get this work done, is looking at a possibility of helping, of getting someone to run alongside of us. Because I think once you get that kind of traction with that type of passion, because we're passionate as you see our work, but it really then gets a whole lot of movement.
This is Lenarda, and I want to add, and I know this was shared earlier, that this is just a reminder. You are the LRC. It's not me and Hermione and Natalie and Donna, but we want your ideas. We need your ideas. The LRC needs you to drive this work. So what are your thoughts on on how to implement, how to operationalize this? That's the whole purpose. If you have ideas, I'm encouraging everyone on the call to please share those ideas, get the conversation started, so that we can drive the work forward. I appreciate, Derek, that you putting that out there. I think you said something very similar previously, but that's what we need. We need your input. We don't have all the solutions, and that's not the expectation that we have the solutions, but you all as the LRC, meaning everyone on this call, every stakeholder, every partner, every referral partner. So we're asking for that information. I don't want to drag this out. I know up next is Mr. Sharif Brown, who's going to present. So I'll just end there. But if you do have something, please share those. Just email me. My email's in the chat. Email me your ideas. What can you do? And that's to everyone.
Thanks, Lenarda. I'm going to put my information also in the chat. I think I'll wait and put it in when Mr. Brown starts. But that you're absolutely right. So the work, Lenarda and I were talking yesterday about, because when I was reading through, the draft of the PowerPoint presentation, saw the credit history. That's just recently come up for our organization. But getting several of us together, maybe all of us together, if you have some ideas around banking institutions that to Mr. Bowden's point, come alongside of us, and maybe even present to this committee, to this subcommittee, talking about ways that they can help. Just prepare a list, put a plan together, and then go after it as team members, as members of the LRC. That is the plan, and I will be following up with each of you. So
Sharif, I've made you, this is Lenarda again, I'm sorry. I've made you co-host Sharif Brown so that you can go ahead and share your screen.
My apologies, hold on, got to plug up this computer before it dies on me. That would not be a good thing. Oh, okay, well, first off, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to present information about my agency and about my reentry program. Hopefully, be a lot of good information. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys might know who I am, or might know what my agency does, or you might not know anything about either. So hopefully after this presentation, you guys will have a clear understanding about who we are and what we do. And any questions along the way, feel free to stop me. I'll answer any questions along the way, or obviously you can hold them to the end. Totally up to you. Obviously I'm working from home, so my son will be making noise in the background. So my apologies on that one. But let's start this. Okay. So who's ADA? Essentially who we are. The name ADA, the acronym stands for Alliance of Disability Advocates. And who we are considered a center for independent living, and we're located in Raleigh, North Carolina, probably about 5 or 10 minutes from Crabtree Valley Mall. So a Center for Independent Living essentially is a federally funded organization that specializes in giving free services and resources to individuals that have any disability, veterans, and the elderly. The 5 catchment area that we have is Wake County, Durham, Johnson, Orange, and Franklin. That's our 5 physical catchment county area. So pretty sure everyone's asking what is a SIL and what makes up a SIL. So these are the requirements to be a center for independent living. Number one, 51% of the staff have to have a form of a disability. Doesn't matter what kind of disability it is, but they have to have a documented diagnosed disability. 51% of the board has to have a disability as well. Every single program that is offered and every single resource that's offered within the agency are consumer or client controlled. And what that means is essentially is that our consumers have all the control in their program. We're just here to facilitate and assist, but not decision make for them. We do not require any medical documentation or any proof of any consumer having a disability in order to obtain our services or resources, which is unheard of nowadays. Most agencies, they require medical documentation or some kind of IEP documentation in school. The only thing that we require is that that consumer has to self-identify that they have a disability, but they don't even have to tell us what that disability is. And as long as they can self-identify, they receive all of our services for free. These are the 5 core services that we must perform in order to receive federal funding. We do information and referrals. We do independent living skills. We do peer support, cross-disability peer support. We do individual and system advocacy, and we do transitional services, and we also work with the youth. And of course, the big one, which is why we're all here, is transition from an institution and diversion, which is keeping our consumers out of any kind of a facility-based care. I'll go more in depth about the 5 core services. For information referral, essentially anyone can call the agency and ask for any information or resource about any disability-related issue. If we cannot perform that particular service because we have a long list of resources that we worked with from around the state, we can refer them to a viable agency that we know will be able to help them for that particular question or issue that they might be having at that particular time. That's important to us because we recognize that when it comes to referrals, if you refer someone to a bad agency, the agency that you referred them to doesn't look bad, you look bad for sending them that way. So we want to make sure that all of our information is always current and up to date and reliable. As we all know, things change at the drop of a dime with financial sources and things like that. So we always try to stay as current as we possibly can. Peer support. We can offer this to our consumers, like I alluded to before, because 51% of our staff have a disability. Some of our staff have multiple disabilities. So it allows us to do peer support. We get a lot of individuals that will call if they either A, have a newly acquired disability and they're not sure how to navigate how the resources, or they just need someone to talk to that can understand the same anxieties or pressures or depressions that they might be going through because of their disability. And we have staff that we can link them up with if they have the same similar disability. But we haven't come across one individual that has asked for some kind of peer support to where we weren't able to link them up with someone in the agency that had a similar disability. Independent living skills. This is really, really big for us. Essentially what this is a service that's provided to either assist with maintaining a consumer's independence or assist in increasing their independence. The one thing that we're not trying to do is have someone lose their independence, because obviously now that puts them in that gray area to where they can possibly go into a institutionalized setting, not necessarily prisons. I'm talking about assisted living and adult care and things like that. Some of the independent living skills trainings, and the list is endless. So I just added a couple here that we can help with: shopping, budgeting, home maintenance, laundry, cooking. Our travel training program has won 3 awards from Go Triangle for community impact. And essentially the travel training program, what we do is we teach individuals how to ride the bus. And as minimal as that might seem, it's so impactful to the population because now that individual doesn't have to relocate because they don't know how to navigate the fixed route system, or they don't have to rely on someone to come and give them rides. This opens up their freedom and their independence tenfold. We offer employment services, which can be anything from resume writing, cover letter writing, mock job interviews. And the great thing about ADA, from the connections that we've maintained, is that every time that Joseph A. Banks or Men's Warehouse does a suit drive, obviously pre-COVID, post-COVID, they haven't, now they haven't really started that back up, but pre-COVID, every time that they would do a men's drive in the Triangle area, all of the suits that were donated, they would give to our agency, to my agency. And essentially we would clean them and steam them and press them, and we have them in what's called a suit closet. And any individual that's transitioning out of any institution that is looking for business attire or casual business attire for job interviews, they can come to my agency and essentially take whatever they need for free. We don't charge, it's a free service as everything else that we do within the agency. We do advocacy on 2 levels, and obviously this is a long slide. Essentially, this just breaks down what the actual definition of advocacy is and how we're doing it, but the Cliff Notes version of it, systems advocacy, because we're federally funded, we receive a lot of information about legislation that might be coming down the pipeline when it comes to disability related issues, whether it's funding or accessible parking rules and regulations, whatever it might be. And if it doesn't necessarily fit the population that we're serving, then we're going to step in and we're going to advocate and try to stop that from happening. The most recent thing that the agency has done is downtown Raleigh was going to build a 3-level parking structure for accessible parking. And I know you're thinking, well, why would an agency that promotes independence for individuals that have disabilities want to boycott someone making a 3-level parking structure for accessible parking? The problem is that we recognize and we come to realize that they failed to ask one individual with a disability about what they think of that parking structure. So essentially we boycotted that because common sense will tell you that you have to ask the population that's going to be utilizing that service. So we stopped that completely until they can get the information from the actual population that's going to be utilizing this structure. On an individual level, a lot of our consumers will try to apply for SSI or SSDI and might not necessarily understand the language that's being directed to them in the SSA office, or they might not be able to elaborate what they need from the SSA office. And a lot of times our consumers will go down to the office and spend hours down there. If none of you guys ever been to the SSA office, I implore you guys to go down there and just sit down there and waste your time, because if you don't get what you need, that's essentially what you're doing. And a lot of our consumers will become frustrated. So we stepped in, and now anytime that any one of our consumers has to go to the SSA office, we will accompany them and make sure that they get everything that they need at that one visit. The 2 institutional services that we have, one is going to be transitions, the other is diversion. And obviously transitions is helping an individual coming out of any deemed institution, and that can be jails, prisons, that can be a federal prison, that can be assisted living, that can be group home, or adult care. We deem those institutions in our SIL philosophy. So it's transitioning them and helping them link up with any kind of a resource and try to help them identify their goals for independent living. Because once again, it all comes back down to someone living as independent as possible. The diversion obviously is once we have an individual that's in population, try to do everything that we can to prevent them from going back. And that just goes back to the independent living skills and trying to keep someone at their independence level so they don't have to go into a institutional setting. This is why we do transitional services. Well, some of the reasons. One, it's required by the Fed, so we have to do it. we're really interested in the demographic as far as the population that we're serving, and we'll get more into that as we get into the reentry side of it. We're interested in the services provided, but the most important, we're interested in goals achieved for any one of our consumers. As minor as it might be, every single goal is a success for us. This is why successful reentry plans is so vital. This is just some numbers for you guys. Obviously, the occasional success story of an individual that was incarcerated, having successful reentry, great job, family life, that's very far and few in between, as we all know. It actually shows that 75% of the people that are involved, actually within the first year, will have some kind of interaction back in the justice system. That's 3/4, which is way higher than what we need it to be. So the successful program management of reentry programs and other resources are critical to change those outcomes. At the end of the day, obviously successful reentry is important for both the individual and the communities that they're going into. This also right here is the importance of an individualized reentry plan. This is what my whole reentry program is based upon. So the independent living philosophy, we offer that to every consumer in every service that we perform and that we offer. But this is also extremely vital when it comes to reentry as well. As we all know, that transitioning back into community life from any kind of incarceration is challenging. And that challenge increases exponentially as the time of incarceration increases and the resources decrease. So it's simply not enough to offer a blanket style reentry resource for individuals pending their release. We all know that most of the case managers inside of DPS or any kind of incarcerated setting are completely overworked. But we did our research, and what we've come to notice is that the average of case managers to individuals being released is about 45-1, sometimes higher. That's just the average. So obviously they're going to be completely overworked with that huge caseload. And a lot of the times the information that they're giving to individuals pending their release is either going to be generic, blanketed, or outdated. And that's not any fault to them. That's just because their caseload is just too voluminous. So once an individual is released with no viable resources or positive supports, that individual is most likely to reoffend and go to prison, which goes completely against the foundation of beliefs of my agency. So this is what the IRP process looks like. So the IRP stands for Individualized Reentry Plan. And it begins at the initial meeting when we meet the justice involved individual. Now, prior to COVID, like most individuals, we had full access to the prisons. But as you know, once COVID hit, that stopped everything in its tracks. But even with COVID being an active pandemic, we were still able to create these IRPs to help our individuals with their reentry. We believe that the best outcomes occur when there's preparation and support before, during, and after release. The most important part of the IRP is actually listening to what the individual needs about their reentry. Because when you sit and you listen to their stories and you empower these individuals, making their own decisions, it now gives them their voice back, which is one of the things that they lost as soon as they became incarcerated. But more importantly, empowering these individuals shows that ADA is invested in their plan, not our plan. And there's no thing as one size fits all, which is why every single plan has to be individualized. In practice, this might mean having a therapeutic approach. It might mean hooking them up with a wide range of educational and vocational opportunities, or it might even mean integrating them back with their family and trying to create a more supportive and successful home environment. Some of the programs and strategies that are built on this framework, we're specifically targeting resources for those individuals who are at a higher risk of reoffending and providing individualized services to address the barriers that each consumer may be expecting or experiencing. So once this IRP is constructed, we actually hand deliver it to the individual in jail so we can review it They can edit it, change it, give us a thumbs up, thumbs down on how it looks, but at least we know that they're actually receiving it because we're hand delivering it to them. So that helps facilitate and support our consumers with their successful reentry plan. Some of the resources that are involved in the IRP, and keep in mind, it is individualized, so every IRP is different, but from all the IRPs that we've done, we've ascertained that these are the top bullet points which everyone's looking for. Obviously, housing, we all know, is at the top of the list for everyone's barriers when it comes to reentry. Everyone knows employment is probably number 2. I already explained the successful closet that we have, but we also have connections to food pantries to help individuals with immediate food once they get released. 5 to 7 people on the staff are certified benefits assistant counselors, which means that anyone who is either looking at getting SSI or getting SSDI or have had it and are trying to restart it and want to work also, but aren't too necessarily clear on how their paycheck will affect their benefits, because we have that certified staff on our staff, we can actually walk them through to the penny what it's going to look like on that seesaw of trying to balance your paycheck with your benefits. I've already mentioned the travel training program. We do connect them with a lot of behavioral and mental health resource information. We do a lot of peer support and recovery. Obviously, the opioid is out of control, as we all know. Majorly, we link a lot of individuals up with vital resources, because we've noticed that a lot of the individuals that are reentering to society either A, don't have their social security card or their birth certificate and don't know where it is, which is going to be vital for you getting your ID, which is going to be vital for you getting employment. So it's just one domino after the next. We offer post-release wraparound services for the individuals in our catchment area. And the great thing about the reentry program is our partnership with Duke University is that we offer a free virtual individualized GED training for anyone across the state that is looking at trying to get their GED. This is not a group training session. It's one-on-one, because we recognize that everyone's at different levels cognitively. So we don't want to have that group setting and where individuals will fall behind or get lost in the mix. So this is that one-on-one individualized training for as long as they need it. And then once they are ready for their GED testing, my agency actually pays for the testing as well. And that's for anyone across the state, not just in our catchment area. The birth of the IRP came from this. In 2016, I implemented this IRP as a model in Butner Federal Compound in North Carolina. 200 individuals to date have been enrolled in this IRP program. And out of the 200 individuals, I've only had 2 reoffend in the first 2 years of the program. That's 1%, which is obviously way lower than the state average and way lower than the federal average for that 2-year window. On a 3 to 4 to 5 year window, we're still operating at about 11%. So we're still very, very low, well below the average. But it was this model that attracted the North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities to my agency. And they offered us a 3-year grant to perform this model in 13 state prisons in North Carolina, pre-COVID. So as you know, we're coming to the end of that grant, obviously. But our connections with them, this is what their initiative is, what their purpose is, that they want to try to improve transitional outcomes for incarcerated individuals with IDDs and other disabilities. There are approximately 2.2 million adults in the prison system today, which over 750,000 of them have an actual diagnosed disability. But obviously the number of those undiagnosed is even scarier than that 750,000. People with disabilities face a higher risk of entering the justice system than people without disabilities. And incarcerated people with disabilities obviously need training and skills and connections to resources to successfully reintegrate into society, and time served should be time for preparation. So far to date, from the initiative between us and the DD Council, We've received 91 referrals. We've completed 84 of them already. The other 7 have pending future release dates. But out of the 84 that we've helped, we're still operating at about a 13% return rate, which is still way below the average, even with COVID going on. Many pre-release consumers are now actively receiving the post wraparound services, and a lot of them have obtained housing, sustainable employment, have applied and received state benefits, but most importantly, they have not reoffended. Spectrum News recognized my program in December of 2020, and they actually did a story on our program while COVID was going on and what we were doing while COVID was ravishing the entire world, per se. Our collaborations that we have, because we recognize that there's no way that one agency can solve every single problem when it comes to reentry, but we have a wide range of partners with us. We have the Dunn Rotary Club of North Carolina. I've already mentioned the partnership with Duke University for our GED training. We've actually had the Women's Club in Charlotte, which is obviously not in our catchment area, but they heard about our program all the way in Charlotte, and they partnered with us on doing their own suit drive for women only. So we'll be able to have both genders in the suit closet, which is wonderful for us. Obviously, I'm connected to every single local LRC and the SRCC. I'm connected to federal and state probation and parole. I don't work for them, but they do send me a lot of referrals for guys that they have coming out that have disabilities. I am partnered with SWIT in Orange County. Obviously, I'm partnered with the DD Council. We partnered with Monarch, who is one of the leading employment networks across North Carolina. And we also partnered with FTI 360, who is another employment organization. Here's some stats, just to throw some numbers at you. According to DPS, this is their records. 55% of the inmates with IDDs have an aftercare program that before they leave prison. Now, you can assume that the number of individuals undiagnosed is going to be greatly underserved, which is why this program is so important. But even with a state recidivism rate of 41% on an average, any individual in restricted housing, which we all know, unfortunately, any individual that's incarcerated, if the prison does not know how to handle that diagnosis, will probably end up in some kind of restricted housing at some point. But within the first 13 months of their release, the likelihood of successful transitioning is extremely low for that individual without any kind of resources or any kind of services. So the team, I know you probably think that we have 100 people working. We don't. It's just 3 of us. Myself, I'm the head of the program. I have Wayne Bell, who is a certified peer support specialist that has been doing InReach probably over the last 15 years before he got with us. And then James Smith actually has lived experience of being incarcerated. So we still can offer that peer support on that side as well. In closing, obviously, whether we're focusing on education, employment, housing, substance abuse, building, cognitive and emotional resources, we recognize and we know that individualized reentry plans, we support successful reentry and reduce recidivism. Luckily, the increased awareness of evidence-based practices can provide a strong foundation, and ADA believes we can assist in creating safe communities by successfully integrating formerly incarcerated individuals. And even though we are federally funded, the agency does take donations and we do accept volunteer hours. This is our address. This is where we are, 3725 National Drive, right in Raleigh. And this is some of the links that I was telling you guys about. So the Spectrum story is there. If you guys want the slideshow, let me know. I'll send it to you so you can have the link. But the Spectrum story is there. I did a presentation with NAMI about this program. I did a presentation with IRLU about this program. And Adrian Boone, who's actually my very, very first reentry consumer in Butner, who is now the director of operations at another SIL after 20 years of incarceration, he did his own YouTube story about how important the program was to him. So that's all I have. So any questions, comments, concerns? I'm here for everything.
No questions. Sharif, thank you so much. That was awesome. Richard Smith would like the slideshow.
Sure, no problem. I will put my
Presentation.
email in the chat. Anyone who
Great.
wants the slideshow, just reach out to me and I will definitely send it to you.
I certainly do. Sharif, just in case I missed it at the beginning, how does, if the referral doesn't come from a facility, how does you take referrals from different providers or just individuals? How they
We do.
access?
We do, because like I said, one of the 5 core services is transitional service. So even if we're not necessarily receiving a referral from an institution or from the DD Council directly from their grant, we still have to perform transitional services as one of our 5 core services to be a SIL anyway. So we take all referrals from an individual. If an individual can make their own referral, they can reach out to us. That's great. If a provider has someone that they think might be interested in it, they can send them our way as well. But you just have to keep in mind, like I alluded to earlier, all of our programs are consumer controlled. So if someone does not want the resources and the services, even as a provider, if you think it would be a great idea for them, we cannot force the services on them. They have to want the services and they have to be invested in the services.
Sure.
But we take everybody, it doesn't matter. As long as they have a disability, that's the linchpin. Any disability doesn't matter, but they have to have a disability. And once again, we do not require any medical documentation. They just have to say, I have a disability, and that allows them to be eligible for everything that we have.
Fantastic. Great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
All right, looks like,
If I could say, Kim,
sure.
he's doing a lot of work. And
Yes.
I really appreciate that presentation. And I did wonder if he had an education background, because he had that IRP in there. So I know in education, when they're working with students and they may have some challenges, they do I think an IEP. So that's what I was wondering. He's doing that very well.
Guilty as charged, not necessarily a background in education, but I do have a special needs son. So
oh wow,
that's where I came from.
Oh wow, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ballin. All righty, so we are winding down. So it's time for announcements. Anyone have any announcements? Aside from your chair? Let's see. I did want to share that, just wanted to letting all the subcommittees know that IPMW has partnered with Campbell University and to provide housing and wraparound services for justice-involved women wishing to pursue an associate's degree in behavioral science or general studies. I'll just read it verbatim. We're hopeful that the associate's degree will lead to a bachelor's. The first cohort is slated to begin in January 2023. The women will receive full scholarships from Campbell University. Many thanks to Natalie from the LRC and the COD folks for allowing us to announce this new initiative here. Thank you so much. We only have space for 5 women in this cohort and wanted to let everyone know about the opportunity ASAP. If you have any women that you've worked with or currently working with who were released within the past year with a GED or who may be interested in pursuing their degree, please have them reach out to, you can reach out to Doris Bullock, doris.bullock@ipmforwomen.org. She's our education consultant, and she'll reach out to you, get back to you immediately. So excited about that opportunity. Any other announcements from the members?
Is Derek Bird still on the call?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Derek, you want to talk about the fatherhood conference?
Most certainly.
I was going to do it, but I saw
Mr.
you on here. I was like, go ahead.
Mr. Ballin could have too. We are once again holding the 9th annual North Carolina Fatherhood Conference. We are going to be in person this year. It will be on Saturday, June 18th, 2022 at the McKimmon Center at North Carolina State University. We have a great lineup of workshops, as always, that will be beneficial to all of the participants who come. This is an opportunity again to celebrate and recognize fatherhood and fathers and other male parents and those who are allies in this work as it relates to fatherhood. We're looking forward to seeing each other again. It's been 2 years since we've all been together. This is a free event. We have two fantastic speakers this year. One is Christopher Emmanuel, who has a really great story about his journey and being able to get his daughter from out of Department of Social Services in Aiken, South Carolina, who was already adopted, unbeknownst to him. And he went, took the county to court and was able to get his rights reinstated and his daughter in his custody. So he has a really great story. A lot of what we will always be focusing on is the institutional impact on fatherhood. And again, that's one institution that definitely always impacts fatherhood. And I heard Sharif talking about having a special needs child. And so we wanted to really talk about parenting, and what it takes for fathers to parent special needs children. And we so happen to have a very excellent speaker who also happens to be Michael Ballin's brother, Dwayne Ballin. May be very familiar to many of you who've been around Wake County for quite some time. He was a former anchor on WTVD, sports anchor. He's written a book and does a lot of work around autistic children. He himself is raising an autistic child. So again, we really want to bring real life experiences into this space for our fathers and for those who are there to support and serve fathers. So we encourage you to come out to spread the word. You can go to, and I'll put the link in the chat, you can go to ncfatherhood.com and you can register. We have also a lot of other pre-conference events that take place. We always have our practitioner summit, which will be on Wednesday, June 15th. We have our Strengthening Fatherhood Power Breakfast on Thursday, June 16th. And that Power Breakfast is going to focus on the institutional impact on fathers in the educational arena, getting fathers engaged in their child's education. And then on Friday, we have a Me and My Dad event that will be taking place from 6 to 8 p.m. So I'll put the link in the chat and thank you for the opportunity to talk about the conference.
Thank you, Ms. Bird. And I did want to mention, when we were discussing the priorities, I know Lenarda offered that folks send your ideas and thoughts, ways to operationalize the 3 priorities to her. But if you will, just send those to, either send them to me. My information is in the chat, or Mr. Ballin or Hermione. And we'll begin to build out the strategy, be in touch with folks. Thank you so much. We're gonna take some of that off of Lenarda's plate and carry it, because we are the LRC. I do like that. I want a button. Okay, so the next steps are the criminal record expungement from no to yes is June 2nd from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. There's the Wake LRC Council meeting in August. We're not going to have a meeting, and make sure I get this right, Lenarda and Natalie. There's no meeting in June, no meeting in July. The council meeting will be in August on the 25th from 1 to 2:30. Our next supportive services subcommittee meeting is going to be in September 22nd from 3:30 to 4:30. And it's going to be a heck of a show, because we're going to have some good stuff to report. Yes, we are. I think that's it. Anybody else have any last minute pieces of contact information?
I do, Ms. Stone, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I just want to add, I just sent a flyer to Lenarda and whoever else was copied. The Raleigh Police Department's Animal Control, they are hosting an event at Roberts Park, our community center here, for those pet owners, dogs and cats. And that's all. So dogs and cats. So don't bring any snakes or anything else out there. And they have a limited amount of vaccine and chips they're doing, as well as pet food. And for any of those pet owners that may be challenged with, I would say, with trying to keep up with prices, with how prices are driving with gas and all that, and then trying to keep their pet, this will be a great opportunity to go out on Sunday, the 29th, between 9 and 2 o'clock, and maybe get you some dog food and maybe get your dog, some vaccine or chipped if you have any concerns about the dog running off. So check that flyer out. And Renard, if you don't mind, you could push that out to the whole group. So that way, if anybody wants to participate, they can.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
And the second thing surrounding June, which is June has a lot of people have given June a lot of things that you do in June. So one of those things are Gun Violence Awareness Month for the month of June. Yeah, it holds a lot of names. And so June 4th, the city of Raleigh, along with the NAACP and the Raleigh Police Department, we're hosting a Wear Orange event at John Chavis Park from 10 to 12. The mayor, the president of the Raleigh Apex NAACP, Joe Givens, will be there to speak, as well as my chief, along with other city officials who won't necessarily be speaking, but that'll support that event. It's from 10 to 12 at John Chavis Park here in the city of Raleigh. And if you have orange, please come out, because this is something that we know that affects us all, especially if we've been paying attention to the news and we just saw the two tragedies that took place in the last few weeks. The latter one there in the early one there in Texas, then the one we had in Buffalo. So if you want to come and support about gun violence awareness, then that'll be the place to be. Again, Chavis Park from 10 to 12 on June the 4th. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think that does it for us. So I'll be in touch, members, for priorities, and we'll see you in August. And fight the good fight.